So when a man approaches you, you have to understand he's ready to copy you. If you want him to be in your presence, he will copy you. See, these men be knowing what women want in a man. They be knowing this. That's why they try to copy your behavior. They try to copy your personality. They try to copy what you like. They try to follow what you don't like. And that's how y'all be getting wrapped around these men's finger. But if you start copying them, they're going to be the ones wrapped around your finger. See, these men, they think logically, but when it comes to matching energy or mirroring that behavior, they get real lost and confused. Because a lot of men want to be in fantasy. So if you give them that fantasy, if you give them that idea that they may get something in return, oh, you got them wrapped around your finger. They can't tell the difference. They can't. See, women, y'all can tell the difference. Y'all just choose not to because you want to be delusional. You want to be delusional. But these men, they can't tell the difference when you give them fantasy, when you start copying them.
Hey, family, welcome back to the Black Tea Podcast, where we stir up conversations that matter with a dose of truth and a whole lot of love. Today, we're diving into something that's been brewing in the dating world, and honestly, I've got some thoughts. We've all seen those videos online about playing games in relationships, and one particularly caught my eye, the whole mirroring thing. Now, as a Christian, I believe we need to approach these topics with wisdom and discernment. The bus core issue, copycatting and its pitfalls. First off, let's talk about this copycat mentality. The idea that you have to imitate someone to get them to like you is, in my view, fundamentally flawed. As Christians, we are called to be authentic and genuine, reflecting the love of Christ, not mimicking someone else's behavior. When the speaker notes that people fall in love so fast because they fall in love with their personality that's being reflected back at them, I think that's actually a great example of how we get it wrong sometimes. As followers of Christ, we should be focused on drawing closer to God in our relationships. How can we do that if we are so focused on being a reflection of the other person and not an authentic image of Christ? Now, the speaker makes an argument that men will copy you if you don't copy them. But consider how unbiblical this is. We are all called to be disciples of Christ and emulate him in how we live and love. If we are called to be emulating Christ, then why would we even consider imitating someone else who is likely to be as lost as we are? This leads to a whole cycle of the blind leading the blind, feminine energy, and God's design. I understand the point about stepping back to embrace feminine energy when a man pulls away, but I see this not as a calculated move, but as relying on God's wisdom. When a man pulls away, it's an opportunity for self-reflection, prayer, and asking, Lord, is this relationship in line with your will? As Christian women, we should not be pursuing men, but instead pursuing God and being a godly woman. We should be focused on living a God-centered life and seeking to be like the virtuous woman of Proverbs 31. Stepping back isn't about playing hard to get. It's about trusting God's timing and guidance. Our identity should not be based on how much attention we get from men, but rather from our standing as daughters of God, responding versus initiating. The speaker mentions that men should be the ones initiating and women should respond. Now, I understand the point that when a man is interested, he will pursue. But I also know that many women have missed the mark by using this as an excuse to become passive and completely avoid making the first move. Many godly relationships have come about because of women initiating the first contact with men. The point of the passage is not to be lazy, but to be discerning. I believe in balance here. God has given us discernment, and that includes knowing when to engage and when to step back. It's about respecting each other's roles, but not being rigid about it. It's a bit legalistic to make it a hard and fast rule that we as women can never initiate, ever. The mirror effect and self-love. The speaker also talks about the seductive, nature of the mirror effect, where we fall for people who reflect our own values. I know a lot of people will agree with the speaker when she says that all people have a narcissistic side to them. Now, while there is a desire in all of us to be seen and understood, this cannot be where we put all of our focus. We, as Christians, should be focused on seeing ourselves as God sees us, as beloved and made in His image. It's good to have shared values, but we can't make it our sole focus because that's where we start to become self-absorbed, and it's also how we can be easily manipulated. Self-love, for the Christian, comes from knowing our value in God's eyes and not from how others reflect our personality back to us. I know a lot of people will say they get a sense of self when other people mirror them and like that, but that is not genuine self-love because it comes from the outside. True self-love comes from within, through Christ. We should not be so desperate for the approval of another that we become another version of them. The idea of pulling your energy back when a man isn't acting right is interesting, but this is where we must go against what the world teaches. Rather than just pulling away and detaching as a calculated move, why don't we take our concerns to the Lord? When we detach as Christians, it's not about manipulating a man to chase us. It's about releasing our anxiety to God. It's trusting that He is in control and will work things out for our good. The speaker says, if you detach, they will come running back. But if you are a child of God, you should never have to play these games with a man. If he is for you, he will be with you. You will not need to use manipulation tactics to get them to do the right thing. Men are simple. Really? I disagree with the notion that men are simple. Everyone is made in the image of God, and that includes men. To oversimplify men is to dismiss their complexity and depth. If a man is not treating you right, I do not think it is because he is simple. It's a matter of character. As Christians, we are called to love with respect, which also means treating one another with kindness, love, and empathy. I do not agree with the speaker when she says that a man said, "I don't have to lie to a woman. If she likes me enough, she'll lie to herself." This is a dangerous mindset and is clearly not in line with the teachings of the Bible. Prioritizing self, God's way. The speaker's point on prioritizing beauty and fitness to have options is not wrong, but it needs to be taken through a Christian lens. We as Christians should be prioritizing our health and well-being, not just for attracting a partner, but as a way to honor God with our bodies. We prioritize our beauty not to have options, but because we should be the best versions of ourselves for the glory of God. Our worth is not determined by our attractiveness, but by our value in the eyes of our Creator. Mirroring infidelity? Absolutely not. Now, let's talk about mirroring infidelity. The idea that if he looks at other women, you should look at other men. I reject this completely. As Christians, we are called to a higher standard of behavior. Two wrongs don't make a right. If your partner is looking at other people, that's a problem that needs to be addressed directly, in prayer, and in a godly way. Responding in kind only leads to more pain. In fact, the speaker even agrees that it can be seen as childish, and we should not be childish. We should always be aiming for love, peace, and reconciliation in our relationships. I agree that our actions should speak louder than words. However, we must ensure that our actions are rooted in love and truth, as taught in the Bible. We should not be playing games or trying to manipulate. We should strive to live in a way that reflects the love of God. I agree that we should not overinvest in someone who isn't treating us right, but we shouldn't be so stingy as to never give our best. The speaker says we should not do more than what a man is willing to do for us. The scripture says we are to do everything in our power to love and give as Christ did, even when those we are loving and giving to don't deserve it. If we love like Christ, we should never be calculating who is giving what, because we are called to live as he lived. We should not be acting out of a place of fear, but rather of faith. Family, the dating world is full of noise, and it's our responsibility as Christians to tune into God's voice. The mirroring technique is worldly advice, and it often appeals to our fleshly nature. It's not about playing games. It's about being authentic and seeking God's will in our relationships. Let's be women and men of integrity, rooted in Christ and reflecting his love. Thank you for joining me on the Black Tea Podcast. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, stay rooted in God's truth and always remember you are loved.